In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to do pedal steel guitar bends on guitar using major triads and major triad inversions. Hi, I'm Jason Loughlin and welcome to the channel. Before we get into it, I want to let you know that the notation, tab, and backing track for that solo you just heard are free. Check out that link down below, go grab those. Also, if you get to the end of this lesson and you're digging it and you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is hit that subscribe button or to check out my teaching website, theinspiredguitarist.com, where I have courses, masterclasses, and jam tracks. Okay, let's get into the lesson. So we're playing over a track in the key of C, and I'm playing over in C, F, and G chord. This is your 1, 4, and 5 chord in the key of C. And you might notice that I'm doing a few consistent things here. One is that I'm always grabbing the same string set. So I'm always grabbing the A, D, and G string. Another thing that you might notice is that I'm using hybrid picking, and this is because I'm trying to imitate a steel guitar player, and steel guitar players aren't doing a ton of flat picking or strumming. You know, they have finger picks and a thumb pick, so they're grabbing. So this helps me get closer to that sound. So I'm doing this 3 different ways. I'm either grabbing all 3 strings with pick, middle, and ring, or I'm arpeggiating with pick and middle finger. That's typically how I do it. Or I'm doing a combination of pick playing the bottom note of the triad and my ring and middle finger grabbing a double stop of the top 2 notes of the triad. And just going back and forth. And now I'm mixing all those things up just to keep it interesting and help me arrange these triads. Brings me to the next thing that I'm doing here. I'm using major triads and major triad inversions. And this is what allows me to have all this movement when I'm playing over one chord and be more dynamic. So let me show you what those are over a C chord. So over a C chord, I'm going to start with a root position C major triad, root 3rd, 5th. Then I'm going to go up to the 3rd and build a first inversion C major triad. Up to the 5th, build a 2nd inversion C major triad. And I could grab another root position C major triad here at the 15th fret. So as I'm playing that, if you're like, I don't really know my triads that well or my inversions that well, or I don't know the names of them that well. I did put out a whole chorus that's just all about mastering your major triads and inversions, voice leading them. It's a great chorus. I'll put that link down below also. That is something that really changed the way I look at the neck, think about harmony, how I solo, how I play rhythm. So really worth knowing. So I'm doing that for C, F, and G. So the other thing that I'm doing is I'm bending out of these triads and triad inversions. And we're trying to imitate pedal steel guitar, so we got to get some bends in here, right? So let's go up to a root position C major triad. Now what's important is that I know what all these notes are, especially if I'm going to bend. So this is the root on the bottom, 3rd in the middle, 5th on top. So I need to know where I'm coming from and where I'm going to with the bend. So if that's a 5th on the top G, I could pull this first finger down and bend it up to the 6th note of the scale, A. Now there's a couple different ways I could do that bend. I could just bend up to the note and come back down, which I'd want to do because the 6th note of the scale is not a chord tone, so I always want to resolve my ideas on a chord tone. Or I could pre-bend, in other words, set up the bend before, so you only hear the release, you only hear it falling down. And then I could apply all my right hand hybrid picking patterns to this. I could grab it, I could arpeggiate it, or I can go back and forth with pick and 2 fingers. So those are my options here out of this root position C major triad. Let's drop down to a second inversion C major triad. And this might be my favorite of the bunch because I have more than one bend I could do here, and I find it pretty easy to grab these bends. So you might notice that I'm fingering this second inversion major triad, leaving my index finger free. And I want to do that because I want to set up this bend into the third. So let me talk through those notes for you real quick. I have the fifth on the bottom, root in the middle, third on top. So if that's the third note of the scale on top, then the 2 is a whole step behind it, and I could pull up to it. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, and then I could apply all those hybrid picking approaches here with the right hand and get some different sounds. So the other thing that I could do here is I could bring this first finger up so I have the 3 underneath the first finger, and I could pull that down to get access to the fourth note of the scale, and that's just a half step away. So you have to be really careful not to overbend here. And when you're doing this stuff, it really does expose the fact that we're playing a tempered instrument, and we can never really get all these triads perfectly in tune. You know, you could tune to get one triad perfectly in tune, but then the others are always, you know, there's some compromise made, but we do our best. Okay, so let's move down to a first inversion C major triad, and I have the root on the top, and this one is a little harder to do because the string tension is higher down here. I play 10 through 46 Siderios, and you know, if I'm doing this stuff a lot down close to the nut where the tension's higher, it's going to tear up my fingers a bit. So do the best you can. This will be easier in other positions and when you're playing over other chords. But I'm going to change my fingering of that first inversion C major triad to get the first finger back here, a half step behind it, and then I'm going to pull it down so it sounds like the root. Everything I'm doing here in C, I need to repeat for the F and G chord. So let me take you through those. Okay, second inversion, F major triad. Can't really bend a 2 into a 3, but I can bend that 3 up to the 4. For the root position, I could definitely get a 5 up to a 6. For the first inversion, much easier to get that major 7 bending into the root. And then playing that second inversion up an octave, now I have both choices of bends here. I can do 2 into 3 or 3 up to 4. Through G, I can't really get the 2 to 3 unless you have really light strings. That's a pretty hard bend normally, but I can get 3 to 4. For root position, I can get 5 up to 6. For first inversion, I can get the major 7 into the root. And for the second inversion up an octave here, hope you can see that, I can get all the bends out of that shape now. Now that I know all my major triad inversions and all the options I have for bending in them, now I can start making music with these and move them around the neck. So you have that solo to work from, but let me give you something that's just a little easier to apply that you could use right away. And I think one of the friendliest inversions to do this with is the second inversion. So let's start C, second inversion up here. And I'm going to give you a pattern to play, and we'll repeat this for F and G. This way we could just play something right away over this track. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to drop my first finger back because I'm going to be approaching that 3 from the 2. And with my right hand, I'm going to be playing the pick on the bottom and going back and forth between pick and 2 fingers. And then that second time I hit that double stop, I'm going to pull this down into the 3. While that's up there, I'm going to grab the bottom note, release the bend, and then arpeggiate down. So all that together. And then to move that up to F, I go to the second inversion and I just repeat the same exact pattern. Up a whole step for G. And I could do the same thing off a C back here when I resolve it. But let's add a little button on the end of this so it just feels like a nice little ending of a phrase. Out of this second inversion shape, I'm going to slide in and out of that fifth on the bottom. And this time I'm going to pre-bend from my 3 to my 4. Hit it twice and resolve. So it's going to sound like this. So we got some patterns, pretty approachable. Let's try this over a track and see how it sounds. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope you're able to apply some of these ideas. It's such a killer sound, and it's so much fun to play this stuff. Don't forget, you have the notation tab and backing track from the solo at the beginning of the lesson here. The link to that is down below. If you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is to hit the subscribe button and then go check out my website, theinspiredguitarist.com, where you're going to find all my teaching materials, along with that major triads course I was telling you about. Jam tracks, courses, master classes, all that good stuff is there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another lesson.